Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Guess who this is? One, two, three, time up. This is your favorite Ruby girl, Kay. Hey, I'm in the house. So excited as always. And tonight, guess who is my guest? If you have been looking at my posts all day, then you know exactly who it is. It's Dr. Rhonda Wood in the house. Hi, Dr. Rhonda Wood. How are you? I think I lost her. That's okay. So, hey, my guest tonight is Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. And so, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood is a mental health advocate. And as we all know, mental health has not been healthy. We see so many stories in the news about how people have zoned out. That's the best way I can put it. They have just zoned out. And we think it must have been something with the pandemic. People was crazy before 2020, but it's like, mental health issues started to show up even greater after 2020. But if you think about it, y'all, we all went through something together. It wasn't like half the people in the United States, we all was going through this together. And we all came out, let's be honest, differently. And we all are dealing with a little something from the pandemic. And just think being locked away, isolated, told over and over that people don't come near people, don't come. It's hard to reset your mind that now you're out here and it's okay to be around people. Even now, I haven't worn my mask in a few weeks, which is good for me. I feel comfortable now. Before I didn't, if I was in a large crowd, my mask was on. But I thank God that God brought us through everything. So, Dr. Rhonda, your beautiful face is back. So, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Sorry about that. Literally, as soon as you went live, my screen just went black. I don't know why. And I went, oh no. And if I was trying to shake it and it just wouldn't come back up. So I had to literally like close it. And when I closed it and opened it, I had to log back in. So, but I'm
Well,
back.
yes, you back. So, Dr. Rhonda, what I want you to do is go on my Facebook page, find this video, and then I want you to share it on your page. That way, your people on your page can watch this interview. They don't have to be sending me friend requests that I'm going to deny. Just kidding, y'all. Just kidding. But I'm saying they don't have to try to give me friend requests that I won't see during the
Oh,
broadcast. That's
I see
better.
that works. Okay. Oh, here we
Okay.
go.
And so while you do that, I'm going to give them the most famous commercial of all. So, hey, I am Dr. Karen. I am the CEO of His Designs LLC. And my brand is Ruby Girl, which is a Proverbs 31 and 10 brand. I am creatively bringing Christ to the nation as I connect you with the tribe with the right vibe. And it's Ruby Girl.
I love
So, as I said, Ruby Girl comes from 31 and 10. If you haven't read your Bible, I'm about to read it for you. Who can find a virtuous woman for her price is far above the price of a ruby? So, ladies, that makes you rare, virtuous, and valuable. Do not forget it. Every Thursday is Ruby Girl Day. So on Ruby Girl Day, let me tell you what we do. We put on our Ruby Girl shirt and we rock it. We go out there and we represent the kingdom of God. Even if you miss church on Sunday, you can make it up by wearing your Ruby Girl shirt on Thursday, right, God? So I'm gonna talk to you later about that. But but wear your Ruby Girl shirt on Thursday. Get the message out there. Women need to know how valuable they are, and especially this is Women's Month. So what I'm gonna do for this Thursday, I'm gonna do a special sale in honor of this being Women's Month. I know it's almost halfway over, but that's okay. It's not over. So, all right, Dr. Rhonda. Oh, yeah. Before I go, make sure you go to rubygirl.net, get your t-shirt so you can rock with us. Don't be left out of the tribe with the right vibe. Dr. Rhonda M. Wood, could you introduce yourself to us tonight?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I've been waiting for my invitation. I've been waiting, silently sitting in the background.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm messing with you. We got to have a little fun on the Ruby
Almost
Girl
there.
Talk Show. But I just want to say, thank you for having me. So my name is Dr. Rhonda M. Wood, and I'm an international mental health speaker, best-selling author, and advocate. And I like to use my voice and my talents to serve women from the classroom to the boardroom. I'm encouraging them to share their mental health journey. I share my mental health journey, and I do it very transparently. And that allows me to be able to connect with people's hearts, be able to connect with them, what's going on in their lives. And so I've been able to reach people, literally from around the world. I have people who reach out to me and follow me and seek advice from me and things of that nature. So it's just been an amazing journey so far.
Maybe because you're an amazing person.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
what makes your journey
You're
amazing.
an amazing person as well. That's why I said I'm honored to be here. I got to get to the show.
I am so, it's funny. We met at the Leadership Experience Tour in 2021.
You
And
did? Oh,
yeah, and I think about when we were first at the Leadership Experience Tour, we were different because we were like, we really were aspiring speakers. I know I was. This
mhm,
was like my first major stage that I had spoke on, the Sean Fair Leadership Experience Tour. Let me make sure I put that out there. And
mhm.
so, and so everybody just like bonded. It was like we had knew each other. It was so different because I never had an experience like that in my life with so many people from all over. And we have all stayed in touch some kind of way, collaborating, doing different things and stuff like that. And like me, I have not missed the Leadership Experience Tour since then. I've been at every one. Yay, yay,
Yeah.
yay. And he has one coming up next week.
That's right. So
Next week.
you'll be there next Wednesday. I'll be there next Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah, so we'll connect once again. But the thing about it is that after the show was over, I felt like I was losing friends and families and that I would never see y'all again. But
Ah,
then Dr. Rhonda Wood suggested about us being ambassadors. And so because of that, we're connected, we're able to work and help other speakers that are emerging. And then also Sean decided to do an outlet. And that was the most wonderful idea in the
oh,
world. So
yeah.
I'm here to tell you, if you have not thought about being on the Leadership Experience Tour, please do. It is life changing. You connect with some people that become your family. So we're like family.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this is why it's such an honor to me to be able to promote you on my platform, because you are doing some awesome things in this world, not just in the United States, but in the world. She's been more so out of the country than in the country lately,
Oh, wow.
y'all. So
Yeah.
I finally caught up with her. So Dr. Rhonda,
Yes.
you are accomplished. Let me get the list. All right.
Uh-oh.
Author, speaker, and soon to be media person. Now, how did you become a mental health advocate? And tell us about I think you're doing radio and TV, or just TV media venture.
No, actually I have both. I have so yeah, so let me back up and tell you sort of how I even ventured into this, because it's not like I woke up one day and said, you know what? I think I'll just be a mental health speaker, author, and advocate. It wasn't like that at all.
It
Just
wasn't.
let me set the record straight. Okay. I got the record straight. I wanted to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Let me just set this. But God said, no, I have something better. I have something better, more purposeful, something that's going to make you want to leap out of bed in the morning, something that's going to make you, have a more fulfilling life and purpose. And so here I am. So so I was at one of my jobs, right? I was climbing that corporate ladder, trying to be all I can be, right? And then, I started to feel this discontentment. I really did. I started to feel this discontentment. I started feeling overwhelmed, overworked, undervalued, unappreciated. You know them feelings that we get, right? I remember one day I was driving to work. I was like, man, same route, same routine, same traffic, same door, same office, same work sitting there waiting for me. And so I think a part of me began to feel depressed. Like I started to feel it. Many times we might be feeling symptoms and just kind of like ignore it, push it away. But I remember feeling it. And what kind of alarmed me was when, I'm driving my daughter to school one day and I noticed that she wasn't feeling it, not just one day, but she was just kind of like, feel like going to school. I don't feel like going to school. I don't feel like going to school. And so when she started experiencing symptoms, and that was sort of an alert for me to be like, okay, man, I need to take a step back and I need to pause. And so I said, oh, okay, I know. We'll start doing some talk therapy. We'll find a therapist. We'll go to him. I'll give it 2 weeks. We'll be good. Right. So we find a therapist. We go, family therapist. We go to his office. And I remember the first time, Dr. Kron, I walk in his office, first visit. We've never met each other before. We've talked on the phone. So he goes, well, why are you here? So I started talking about her. I was like, well, she's experiencing this and she goes through this, and every day it's this, and I start naming all these things. And the whole time he's kind of nodding his head and he's looking at me, and he's, he never looked at her, never asked her any questions. And so he let me finish my spiel. He was very respectful. He heard me out. And then when I was done, I kind of sat there, and it was a quiet pause for a minute. And I was about to say, so what you think? And so he said, I can't help her until I help you. Oh. And I went, I didn't get it fully at the time, but I totally get it now. And I realized, and one thing that I do want to say, because I think this goes for a lot of people, is that a lot of times we might be trying to help other people, but we got to prioritize ourselves first. And that's biblical. That's in the scriptures where it talks about making sure you take care of making sure you're taking care of yourself. Loving your neighbor as yourself, meaning the direction is for you to make sure you're taking care of yourself first. And so I heeded his warning. So when I started going to him, so both of us were doing talk therapy to sort of get us out of this mood and this unmotivation and this daily, but it was much deeper than just not, my therapist always talks about getting to the root. He's not a surfacey type of person. So if you go in and say, okay, I'm feeling sad, it's not about, okay, take 2 of these pills and call me in the morning. It's not about lay on my couch and tell me all your problems. It's let's get to the root of why you're feeling that way. And so, we were talking, and then one of the things he said, now mind you, I would either see him like maybe before work or maybe after work. So I'm typically, dressed up in corporate attire. So I had on a suit, probably had on some jewelry, pearls or something. And I probably had my hair up in a swoop, probably had on high heels. So I'm sitting there talking to him, and he goes, you're depressed. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm arguing with him. And he said, no, you are. He said, I've been doing this for a long time. And Miss Wood, let me tell you, if you don't slow down, you're going to have a nervous breakdown. You're going to break down. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, no, people who have nervous breakdowns, they show symptoms of a nervous breakdown. And he said, I've been doing this for a long time. I know what I'm looking at. So that was enough to put the fear of God in me. He scared me. I heeded his warnings. I took time away from work. I prioritized my mental health because he told me what a mental breakdown looks like, a nervous breakdown looked like. I was like, that's not going to go with my outfit. That's not a good look for me. I don't want to go through that. Not just, I didn't want to go through it. I didn't want my daughter to see me go through it. Like, it was a lot to it. But I realized if I didn't get control of what I was going through, what I had been through, what I was experiencing with my daughter, if I didn't get those things under control, that I was going to break down. I was. He likened it to sort of, so there's sort of 2 analogies. One is a beach ball. You ever try to hold a beach ball underwater?
I think I did.
It keeps rising to the
Yes.
top. As much as we try and keep it down, and I think, those are things that happen under pressure. Another thing he likened it to is sort of like, so every Friday morning, my trash and recycle trucks come by. And so, they keep dumping, you go to each house and they keep dumping, right? And then that little mechanical thing pushes it back and it keeps, but at some point it gets full. Yeah. And it can't take anymore. And it's the same thing with us. We keep pushing things down and be like, I'll deal with it later. I don't have time for this right now. I got stuff due. I got a deadline. I got the kids. I got to cook. I got to wash. I got to clean. I got to put the trash. I got to walk the dog. Right.
Yes.
And when we're stressed and when we're overwhelmed and we're feeling sad, we always feel like I don't have time to deal with this now. But at some point we have to make time. And I think that was sort of where my life was back in 2016. I was like, I need to make time now, because if not, my body's going to be like, we can't take it anymore. And so, so I prioritized my mental health. And so I started going to talk therapy. I started looking up trying to figure out how can I best support my daughter? How can I be a great mom to her? I need to learn about her symptoms, what to do for her, what her triggers are, what type of environment I need to have for her, what type of research. I started doing all this research, and I came across some support groups. I came across some sort of educational classes. I came across all these things, and then I was asked to share our story. So one of these organizations, they had heard about my story, me supporting my daughter and trying not to have a breakdown in the moment. And so she said, "Hey, we're going to have an open panel in the neighborhood." So they were inviting elected officials to come. So officials in my district who were recently elected, they wanted to have an open panel discussion about mental health. And they wanted me to speak on the panel. And I said, "You want me to speak on the wait, you want me to speak publicly? You want me to speak in front of people?" Because I had not done that before. And you want me to speak on mental health in front of people? Wait a minute, do you have the right number? Because here's the thing, Dr. Caron, I talk to my therapist in private, behind closed doors with the noisemaker on. Like, I don't stand up in front of people, neighbors, and elected officials and tell them our family drama with mental health. And they were like, "You got to. People need to hear your story. They need to know what's going on in the community." And so I said, okay. I swallowed real hard and I did it. And so my strategy is, let me go tell my story. Then I'll come home, I'll have a glass of wine, and I'll figure it out later.
You know what? It's what I heard as you was talking was how God was redirecting you. A lot of people would have looked at that like that was a block, like God, I'm about to have a mental breakdown, and you wouldn't see the purpose in it. And sometimes God will push us into the very thing that He wants us to be in. But that push sometimes is not the easiest push. Like when somebody said fire and you pushing people out the way, you're not, "Oh, excuse me, I'm coming through." God was like, "Here," and not without you even knowing. That was your next. That was your purpose. And like you said, depressed. I think a lot of us, we get stuck in a work cycle. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest, y'all. And look, if you haven't shared this, share this. Okay. Take this moment and share the share button. Just press it, y'all. One time. Let's practice. Boom, share it. There we go. So I'm gonna be honest tonight about even my mental health struggles. So before the pandemic, I was like you. I was going to church, go do this, do that, do this. Everything was a pattern. And if you ever watch a movie when they're trying to kill somebody, the person always have something that they always do. They never deviate. And that's how the hitman gets them. Every day, the same way to work. Like you said, everything was the same. And when the pandemic came, it reset my whole life. And I'm going to be honest, I was glad for that because I didn't know how to reset my life and I was getting depressed too. So I know how you feel. It's like we're just taught to do the same thing over and over, the hamster wheel. And so God pushed you off of the hamster wheel. And you in there talking about your daughter, and the therapist like, honey, you broken too.
I think it was more than a push, though. I don't know, that felt like more than a push. That felt like you ever seen wrestling? That felt like around the neck type.
He slammed you like bam. But you know what? God, that's why I be telling people. When God said we don't understand His ways, His thoughts are not our thoughts, and how we be thinking our good is good, and He's like, oh, it's like a filthy rag. And I'll never forget. God had me to preach a sermon about the little foxes destroy the vine, and He began to show me my stuff that I thought was right, and it's so little. It was so simple as me. Like, say for instance, people have their insurance at another address so they can get a lower rate, little stuff like that. He was like, those are foxes. So it's funny how God will redirect us. He can redirect us in a gentle way, and then He can do that wrestling move that'll get you exactly. Well, I am glad for your journey. You
Mhm.
know, sometimes we don't look at the pain and the pressure we went through and say, Lord, I'm glad for the journey. It's just like climbing a mountain. There's no escalator. And it has to be rough so you can get a grip. And it has to have clips and everything so you can grab on. And those are like your steps up. And that's what you were going through. It had to be rough because now you can totally identify, and people that have mental illness can connect with you. I mean, you can not have mental illness and help people. Psychiatrists do it all the time, but when you have been through it, people connect with you better. Now you are so into mental health, helping people, everything. And a little birdie told me that you have a fundraiser coming up,
I
and that the
do.
name of your team is, are y'all ready for this? Don't y'all steal this name. Stigma Stompers. Tell us how we can support you. And I want somebody to be my secretary, and she give us a link. I want y'all to put it in the chat. All right.
Yeah, so I am a member of the board with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. National Alliance on Mental Illness. So that's NAMI, and it's a national grassroots company. It's the largest national grassroots company in the US. And what it does is it supports, it gives free resources, free education, free classes, free support groups for peers, for families, so that they can help the millions of Americans who are struggling with mental health, and and their loved ones and the people that they care about. And so I've been a volunteer, I've been a presenter, I've been a member, so now I'm a board member. So becoming more and more involved. And so every year, of course, they're raising funds, they're raising money so they can continue to help more and more people. We're helping to push across and get support for legislation that is coming across the House and the Senate. So we are having a fundraiser called, and our team is called the Stigma Stompers. And so my fundraising page is actually in my Facebook and Instagram and TikTok bio because it's a long link. So if you go to my social media pages and you click on my bio, the very first link is my fundraising page. I would love your support. My goal is, I believe it's $300. Think it's $300. I raised it. It was 200. I was like, I can do better than that. This is my first year raising money. I participated as a walker, but this is my first time actually raising money. So I don't want to just meet my goal. I actually want to exceed my goal because I want to be able to help support a worthy cause.
Now y'all know y'all can help her out. $300 is nothing.
Yes, I
So
was like, let me ask 30 friends for a $10 donation.
she shouldn't even have to go through 30 friends. She should have one good friend that has $300.
Yes.
I know she got one good friend, but no, if you can support her fundraiser, hey, tell them how to your social media handles.
My social media handle is at Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. So I think I have 9 or 10 social media platforms. Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn are my main ones. But and it's DrRhonda MWOOD. So at Dr. Rhonda M. Wood is my social media handle on all social media platforms.
Okay, y'all go hit one of her handles and donate. Like she said, even if she get 30 friends, $10 won't even hurt you, because that $10 was a cup of coffee for y'all. So you just donate that cup of coffee to Dr. Rhonda Wood. So Dr. Rhonda, even just in our brief time that we talked, you have already shared a lot with us, because people are struggling with mental health and people do not know how do you help people with mental health. If you got a headache, I'll give you an aspirin. If you fall and you scrape your knee, I know how to give you a band-aid. But a lot of people, how do you help somebody? This is a throw-in question. How do you help somebody, but it's going to be in the second part. But I want you to think about, how do you help somebody that is broken mentally? An audience, I want you to think about this, and I want you to put in the chat right now, how do you think you can help somebody that's mentally broken? It's easy to fix it when it's physical, but how do you fix it when it's mental? So what we're going to do, we're going to go into a 30-second break. So during this 30 seconds, No, 60 seconds. I give you 60 seconds. I don't know why I was trying to cheat you, you know. So I want you to give us a 60-second pitch, talk, whatever. Make sure you put your contact information. While you do that, I'm gonna go look on Facebook, see what everybody is saying, and also share this broadcast on my other 29 and a half pages that I have. All right, go ahead, Dr. Rhonda.
Okay, so you want me to give a pitch on how to help people with who are maybe struggling with mental health?
Oh no, that's gonna be our we're gonna address that when we come back because they're putting it in the chat now. Just
Okay.
give us a pitch. It can be about your business or anything like that, a pep talk. Just blow our minds.
Okay, all right. Well, I always like to talk about the different ways which can sort of lead to us developing mental health symptoms, very common ways, especially since this is Women's Month. Let me just talk about us as women, okay? So one of the things that we typically may feel is this obligation that we have to stay strong. That's like the number one thing, because women, we like to be that superwoman. We like to put that S on the chest, right? And wear that cape. And so one of the main things that we typically do that could possibly lead to us developing, mental health symptoms is the obligation to feel strong, maybe even suppressing our emotions, having a hesitancy to be vulnerable, always wanting to serve other people and sort of putting ourselves on the back burner. And probably another number one is this determination to succeed despite our limited resources. And so those are some of the things that I speak about when I do my some of my talks. Is I'm trying to help people. So that's sort of what my business does. I'm global, so I travel around the world giving talks about things of that nature.
All right. Did you give me your contact information?
Oh yeah, so my contact information. So my website is drrhondamwood.com. My email is info@drrhondamwood.com. And my social media handles, you guessed it, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood on all social media platforms.
You are consistent, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. So we have out there tonight Elizabeth Baez, and she says amazing. She commented on our comments. We have Michelle D. Clark in the house. Michelle with one L. She said, "This is a wonderful show. Congratulations, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood." And Elizabeth just said, "Hey," again. She said, "Don't leave me out. I'm saying it one more time. Hey." So let me make sure I can see the comments a little bit better. So yeah, we got quite a few people out there watching us, which is so great and fantastic. I really thank you all for being dedicated to your support every week. I try to find somebody with a topic, somebody that will help us, educate us, and just make us better Ruby girls all the way around. And I think I did really good this week, y'all.
Yes.
So we're going into the second part of the show. Thank you so much, Dr. Rhonda. You really rocked and blew our minds in your 60-second pitch. And thank you so much. Now I want you to, now you told us about your personal journey, how you were bringing your daughter to get her mental health together and found out that you needed some mental health work too.
Yes.
And so, and I just put the question out there, how do you help somebody that's mentally broken? So can you tell us just a little bit more about your daughter's mental health and answer that question for us?
Sure. So let me answer the question first. So, because people always say, well, how do I help somebody who's experiencing mental health? The first thing I say was that, listen, don't be going out there trying to diagnose people. Don't go to work and be at the water cooler or be eating the donuts by the coffee machine and try and diagnose people as having depression and PTSD and bipolar and all anxiety. Don't do that. However, there's nothing wrong with maybe asking someone, hey, are you okay? And letting them know that you'll be there if you need support. I would say if it's somebody closer, somebody who's a close friend or a family member, giving them a little bit of comfort, saying, you know what, it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to, you can always tell people, you can be real with me. You can be honest with me. We can be transparent. We're friends, or we're family. So kind of, trying to maybe, lower their guards a little bit. And then, maybe say, hey, can I offer any help? Can I, give you a ride? Can I make some phone calls? Providing a sort of safe environment for them. I think that's huge. Also, just being having a confidential, no judgment space. Because I think a lot of people, stigma is so real. A lot of people are afraid to say what they're really going through or what they really are feeling because of fear of being judged, fear of not having that I'm in control and I'm in charge and I'm a strong super person. They want to maintain that image. And so it's difficult to sort of let your guards down and be vulnerable. So someone who's going through something, I would say, offer help, let them know, hey, you can talk to me, offer a safe environment and make and a listening ear, active listening, not trying to solve the problem. Don't try and solve it. A lot of times I ended up saying the wrong things, because I was trying to fix it. Even as a parent, I was trying to fix it. But sometimes people just they need someone to hear them. They need to be heard. They need someone to listen to them. So those are some key things.
I agree. Michelle D. Clark put in the chat, become familiar with the signs and symptoms, listen first. We
Yeah.
can miss the signs from our family, our friends. And she says, a family or friends, when we don't listen. When you recognize the signs, do something. Katrina says support, checking in, safe environment is important. And
Yeah.
Michelle said, be supportive. Active listening, Elizabeth said, is very important also. And she's right. Sometimes you need somebody to listen to you and
Yeah.
understand your pain, because I have went to people when I was really struggling during the pandemic, and
Mm.
I have talked to them about some of my mental issues, and I thought that the talk was done, but then later on they came back and was like, I'm kind of worried about your mental health, and you said, and so that made me shut down. That
Mm.
made me shut down and say, I have to deal with this myself, because people don't understand. And you can be crying out, because I know it was times I was crying out to my friends, like dropping hints. I was like, yeah, I don't feel right in my head. Oh, I rebuked. There ain't nothing wrong with you. And and I was like, you can't do that. If somebody say I'm not, it's like if I come and I break my arm broke. My arm broke. You okay? That's what you just
Right.
did to me.
Right. Right.
So we have to understand when somebody tell us that they're emotionally hurting, we can't just flip off the pain. We can't just always just go right in and pray. A person needs you to hear them first.
That's so true. You brought up a good point when you talked about someone will say, make you feel like you are a lesser than spiritual Christian, that is something wrong with your relationship with God. You can't be a Christian and experience mental health symptoms. So let me just address that. First of all, let me give this disclaimer. I forgot to give this disclaimer at the beginning, and I have it on my website, that I am not a mental health professional. I am a mental health advocate. My credentials are my experience.
Love it.
Yes. So I'm not giving medical advice. Here, make sure you see a professional. See Michelle D. Clark. Michelle. So yeah, so I think even with me, one of my things was that there were times when I felt that people were judging me, making me feel like I needed to pray more, pray harder. You can be saved, sanctified, and sassy and still struggle. Mental, that's me. Because people would tell me, well, wait, you don't look depressed. Yes, I don't look depressed, but I am. But you're always smiling. Yes, I'm smiling and I'm depressed.
Yeah.
They're like, but you're always cheerful. I'm cheerful, smiling, but I still have depression and anxiety. My seasonal depression was huge for me. It lasted for weeks. And yes, I was praying. Yes, I was reading my Bible. I was still Christian. I was still going to church. I was still interacting with my church family. I was still serving. And none of those things were discounted because I was experiencing mental health symptoms. Just
Mm.
wasn't. I could be both. I could be a Christian, still go to church, and still experience mental health symptoms because that's what was happening.
Sometimes people think we as Christians have this shield around us, but you
Mhm.
got to think about it. The enemy of this world comes for us harder because we are his enemy. We're on the side of God. So of course, we might experience things that the people in the world don't. We broke just like everybody else. We have money issues. It's
Right.
not like I open my purse and God has dropped money in it every
Right.
day.
We just have grace.
Manna is not falling from heaven for us anymore, y'all. We have to go out and earn that manna.
Right,
But
right.
people act like it's something wrong. Well, you just ain't praying. Are you a tither? Or you can be doing all that and still be broke. I remember I was tithing and giving an offering the same amount as my tithes at one time. But I would go home and eat noodles with butter and rice because I didn't have any money to buy food with. And I was faithful to my church serving and everything. But I'm just going to tell you what a pastor told me. He said, get $25 and be faithful over it. He said, you're not being cheerful in your giving. I got that $25. I was going down that aisle every Sunday. Do you know things broke and opened up for me? It wasn't about the amount that I was giving. It was how I was giving it because we were forced to get in a tie line. So I couldn't be a minister and sit there like, okay, I'm not paying my tithes, everybody would know. So I was forced to get in the line and pay my tithes, even when I knew I didn't have nothing at home to eat for
Wow.
the week. Well, even when I knew my bills some of them was about to get turned off. And it was because I was in a bad financial situation because I walked away for the integrity of Christ, of the job that I was on. But God took care of me. But it just goes to tell you, as a Christian, we have mental issues. Think about it. We have a war going on. We have the enemy feeding us stuff. We have to deal with that. So yeah, just because somebody has a mental issue or a mental struggle, I mean, our minds is just like our body. They break down, our body deteriorates, our mind can be overloaded too. So I want to thank you for addressing that it's okay to be a Christian. And if you're struggling, get some help. Go to a Christian counselor. Talk to your pastor, talk to somebody you can confide in, do whatever you got to do. And you're right, Michelle, the tithes equals a tenth. And going back to that, I was given the 10%, but then we had a prophet come in and says that to get really that breakthrough, your tithes and your offerings should be the same amount. That's when I was a baby Christian. I know better now. So okay, so this is the elephant in the room, Rhonda.
Yes.
What do you think is causing the mental crisis that we see in our country? Like the mass shootings, the mental health breakdowns. Like here in Detroit, we have had 2 police shootings where somebody had a mental breakdown. They had a knife, but still they took their lives because the police didn't know how to disarm them in a way that it was safe for them and for the police. So can you give us 3 coping tips also once you answer this question? What is causing this mental breakdown?
Wow. So let me say this first. Let me preface this answer with this, that and you all probably know this, but I gotta say it. Not everybody who picks up, the gun, the weapon, the rifle, the AK-47 and shoots up a place has a mental condition, has a mental illness. Sometimes they do it out of hatred, out of racism, out of spite. So some of those instances, and then I also feel like sometimes people will commit a crime and then they want to run under the umbrella of or the protection of, mental health and mental illness so that they go to, get treatment, see a doctor, as opposed to, getting legally penalized. So I just want to say that first. Now, and the other thing that I want to say is I think, even in the example of myself and my daughter. So first of all, mental health looks different on different people. Coping strategies are going to work different for different people. And the way they, what works for them. So for example, my daughter and I, at one point, like she had a certain type of depression and she had a certain type of anxiety. I had a certain type of depression and a certain type of anxiety. If I take our depression, her depression looked different. It was difficult for her to get out of bed. She didn't want to go to school. Her motivation was very low. Whereas for me, the doctor told me I was depressed. I was going to work every day. I was dressed up. I went and still did things. I was functionally depressed, but still at risk of a breakdown. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who looks or outwardly behaves like they have a mental health condition. So the way I coped and the way she coped with mental health was different. So my top coping skills is I love a good prayer walk. I love some good meditation. I love some good music. I love lighting, candles. I love things that sort of bring me peace, brings my heart palpitations, my anxiety down. I've done yoga, I've done exercise. I used to exercise for an hour every day, every single day, 7 days a week. Even if I'd be like, oh man, it's late, I forgot I would still do my exercise. That's my coping thing. So those are mine. What my daughter would do. Her big one was also music. Another one for her was journaling and writing. And then she had a sort of so she needed something social. So she would either need to, be around a close friend, call a close friend, or, something like that. So we had different types of strategies that both worked for us. So I think it differs from person to person.
Wow. And
Mhm.
it's and you're right, some of the mass killings, different things that are going on, people do say they're crazy, but a lot of it is spiritual. It's like when one person does something, it puts the spirit out on in the earth. Like the Columbine shooting started the school shootings. And I had read the story about these young boys. And when I tell you, it was so crazy because they had a suicide pact at the end. And
Wow.
they literally at the end, after doing all that carnage, and they were talking about people that survived, the laughter, and they were like, it was almost like a video game to them. And I said, a lot of this is demonic for
It is.
one. And then you got to think about it. We open when we took prayer out of the school. In other words, when we said, God, get out of here, we're supposed to be opening the door and say, devil, get out of here. But we basically said, God, get out of here. We got this. We can raise our kids. They can go to school. School is for learning, not for learning about God. We basically invited the enemy in to have his way. Because I remember going to school, we got paddlings. And I do mean paddlings because they use a paddle.
Wow.
And I learned about the 23rd Psalms. I memorized verses while I was in school. We were required to bring our Bible to one of the classes that we had. Yeah, we did more Bible study than we did educational study. But I went to school in Mississippi.
Oh,
And
okay. I was going to say,
uh-huh.
when did the choice like that?
Yep, I went to school in Mississippi.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's where I learned the 23rd Psalms, the Lord's Prayer, all this in school. And it did not make me a bad person. So when we would go to do things we knew were wrong, this is two things that happened. Number one, we were convicted because we had been taught through the word that this was wrong. And then number two, the Holy Spirit, if we did something wrong, we only did so much. We didn't go like we would do a level 2, not a level 10 like people would do. We would fight each other, but we wouldn't go get a gun and take each other's life. But now there's no conviction. They don't even know the 10 commandments. So it's just a free for all in our schools. And unfortunately, it has spread to the workplace. It is spread all over the nation. You just don't know when you say we have to be trained on our jobs now. It's called what is it called? Run, hide, and fight.
Oh,
Run,
wow.
hide, and fight. We have to take training and stuff like that. And so we might laugh at the video and stuff, but the reality is this could happen one day. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be anybody. It could be somebody just woke up that morning and said, I'm going out and I'm going to kill somebody. But I don't remember. And maybe because the media wasn't like it was when I was growing up and when I was like 20 and whatever, people were shooting each other, but it wasn't any mass shooting. And other countries don't have mass shootings like we did. Because when you went out of in UK, what was they asking you, Dr. Rhonda?
When I was in the UK?
What was they asking you about the mass shootings when you
Oh,
told
yeah.
them you was
So,
American?
yeah, once I told them I was American, one of the first things that they always asked me was, did I own a gun? Because apparently that's the image that we have overseas. They get news of all of these shootings that we have. So their question was, why? And are you one of them? You own a gun, whether it's for me to use or for protection. They wanted to know if I owned a gun. So that was a little bit concerning to me. And they were like, we don't have that here. We have, we don't have a lot of gun ownership here. You don't hear about a lot of shootings, is what I was told. So
Hmm.
that was
Yeah,
the
yeah, we're
I just
yeah.
say this really quickly is that one of the things that I noticed, one of the things that I think would be so cool, we talked about coping, and I do think it's important for people to learn what their triggers are and what are healthy coping skills. Because obviously picking up a gun when you're having a bad day and shooting up something is not the way to go. But I think that starting as young as possible, starting in elementary school, and having some type of mental health curriculum for our children, for the educators as well, for the teachers, for the administrators, for the staff, because I think children need to know what mental health symptoms are, how to address them in themselves, but also how to address them in their peers, and how to talk to, an adult if they feel like they need help. For the adults, for the staff, the teachers and administrators, I think they need to be educated as well, so that if they see it, excuse me, see a child that's struggling, they will have the education, they will have the knowledge and to know how to address it properly. One of the things that I noticed is that a lot of children were being punished or penalized when what they were doing was cries for help, and what they really needed was help and support, and not suspension or expulsion or things of that nature. So I think it would start young, and then of course parents it would be great to get that education. I think in the workplaces need to teach, how to have mentally healthy workplace cultures and environments in the workplace. And I think trainings need to take place there. Also giving resources. When I was at work and I said, hey, here's an issue, my boss didn't know how to respond. Like I told them, I said, hey, there's some family mental health issues going on. It was so serious that I had to go to um, a crisis place. And there was supposed to be a meeting that day. And the meeting was in New York. The expectation was that I still went out of town for that meeting, when I basically just said, there's a mental health crisis going on. Wrong response. Never did they ask, was I okay? Was my family okay? Did I need anything? Take some time. Here's a number you can call if you need some support. It was none of that. It was just, I'm thinking of the profit over the person type of thing. So the schools need some support, workplace needs some support, individuals need some support, so we can know how to help other people learn how to better cope. And the other thing I wanted to say, just in terms of the mass shootings, in a lot of instances, they probably, not all, because again, I don't have the letters after my name, but in a lot of instances, it probably would have helped if they had known some better methods to be able to handle what they were going through, or some resources to be able to handle what they were going through.
Ah,
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, that kids need to be taught not only coping skills, conflict resolution. It's like we see these issues, but we don't address them. We don't put programs in place to say, hey, let's start addressing them. We want to talk about it, we want to put it in the news, but we never come up with a solution for it. We just keep letting people do whatever they want, but it has to be guidelines. You have to have rules. You got to give these people help. So I got one more question for you, and we're going to close out. You have a book coming out. Tell us briefly about that book, and then when you get finished telling us about the book, I want you to give us a 2-minute closeout. And while you do it, I'm gonna be showing them your beautiful website.
Oh, well, thank you. So yes, I'm working on a book. It's been my one of my great projects that I've been working on. So I currently have 3 anthologies, but this is going to be sort of my book, my project. The name of my book is called Truths, Traumas, and Triumphs. And it's going to be out this year. And what it is a guide. It's sort of a guide that helps people make the transition from what I was going through, that prevent that breakdown, get through the brokenness, and get through the breakthrough. And it's a book that is meant to inspire people, inspire them to step away from the stress, the stigma, the shame, the secrets, the struggling in silence, all of those things, to step away from those things, to authentically stand and walk in your truth, and to embrace your divine destiny. So what a lot of people may not realize is that a lot of the things that there's purpose in the pain. A lot of the things that we experience, all those adversities and what feels like the oppositions and those detours and those diversions and those disruptions in life, they all have purpose. And so when I look back, of course, when I was going through those difficult times of, the mental health crises that were happening, it was difficult because I was in it. But once you start to walk through it, you're faithful enough to walk through it, you start to see, oh, okay, there was some good that came out of that. Like just looking at what I'm doing now, taking those experiences and being able to use them for a greater good. So this book talks a lot about that. It talks about the truths. There are some, I noticed in my family, there were some mental health symptoms that stemmed from people in my family trying to live a lie, trying to suppress secrets, these family secrets. So it talks about truths. It talks about some of the traumas, things that I grew up around, the childhood traumas that I grew up around, the things that I had to overcome. And then of course the triumphs, you can't just end it there, you got to have a happy outcome. So being able to talk about some of those successes that I was able to experience as well. So that's pretty much what the book is about. I can't wait to finish it. I can't wait to share it with everybody. It's going to be amazing.
Great. Okay. That's your closeout too?
Yeah, I'll let that be my closeout.
So tonight, I want to thank Dr. Rhonda M. Wood for being a guest on the show tonight. I want to thank her also for being real and transparent with what her and her family has faced. And she's now an advocate going around the world alerting people about that mental health issues are real, and that people that have mental health issues should not be stigmatized. They should not be looked upon as weak. Just like if we physically get hurt, we emotionally get hurt, and we mentally get hurt, but there's a fix for it. So I just want to thank her for her words that she put out into the world, the words that she write to the world, her gift of writing. And I just want to thank her for being real and transparent with everything. And we just want to ask that God would just bless you so abundantly and meet every need that you need because of how you're sowing seeds in the earth. So I speak and declare that there's a great harvest coming for you swiftly, that you just been planning. So now God is like, step back and watch what you have planted grow and manifest. So once again, give them your contact information. Y'all go on her website. She speaks. She's an excellent writer. She writes bios. She writes everything. She's coaching and she's training. She does it all. Go to her website, drrhondamwood.com. Anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, so I just wanted to piggyback on what you said, and also sort of when my therapist gave me that heed, and when he said, if you don't change, if you don't take a step back and prioritize your mental health and wellness, you will have a breakdown. You will have a mental health nervous breakdown. And so one of the things that you said is, basically the physical health and the mental health are equally important. If he was a medical doctor and said, if you don't stop, you're going to have a heart attack, I would change. It's the same thing with our mental health. And to take that as just as serious, if we don't prioritize it, if we don't take care of our mental health, then our bodies will let us know in a most inconvenient way. And so to make sure that we are prioritizing mental health and wellness is making that a priority in our lives.
All right. right, Dr. Rhonda, thank you so much. And everybody that's out there, thank you so much for watching tonight. I'll be back next Tuesday at 8:30. If you want to be a guest on the Ruby Girl Talk Show,
Yes.
please inbox me. Don't say your story is not good enough or whatever. If you just want to be a guest, I am welcome for you to be a guest on my Christian show. I have to put that
I know.
disclaimer out there too these days, because some people think just because I have a platform, no, not everything don't work on this platform. I glorify God to the highest. So thank you, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. Have a great and fantastic evening, everybody. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.